The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva, read by Angus Cargill. Chapter 6. Patience. All the good works gathered in 1,000 ages, such as deeds of generosity and offerings to the blissful ones, a single flash of anger shatters them. No evil is there similar to anger, no austerity to be compared with patience. Steep yourself therefore in patience, in various ways, insistently. Those tormented by the pain of anger never know the tranquility of mind. Strangers they will be to every pleasure. They will neither sleep nor feel secure. Even those dependent on their Lord for gracious gifts of honours and of wealth will rise against and slay a master who is filled with wrath and hate. His family and friends he grieves, and is not served by those his gifts attract. No one is there, all in all, who, being angry, lives at ease. All these ills are brought about by wrath, our sorrow-bearing enemy. But those who seize and crush their anger down will find their joy in this and future lives. Getting what I do not want, and all that hinders my desire, in discontent my anger finds its fuel. From this it grows and beats me down. Therefore I will utterly destroy the sustenance of this my enemy, my foe who has no other purpose but to hurt and injure me. So come what may, I'll not upset my cheerful happiness of mind. Dejection never brings me what I want. My virtue will be warped and marred by it. If there's a remedy when trouble strikes, what reason is there for dejection? And if there is no help for it, what use is there in being glum? Pain, humiliation, insults, or rebukes, we do not want them either for ourselves or those we love. For those we do not like, it's the reverse. The cause of unhappiness is rare, and many are the seeds of suffering. But if I have no pain, I'll never long for freedom. Therefore, O my mind, be steadfast. The calmer folk and those devoted to the goddess endure the meaningless austerities of being cut and burned. So why am I so timid on the path of freedom? There's nothing that does not grow light through habit and familiarity. Putting up with little cares, I'll train myself to bear with great adversity. Don't I see that this is so with common irritations, bites and stings of snakes and flies, experiences of hunger and of thirst, and painful rashes on my skin? Heat and cold, the wind and rain, sickness, prison, beatings, I'll not fret about such things. To do so only aggravates my trouble. There are some whose bravery increases at the sight of their own blood, while some lose all their strength and faint when it's another's blood they see. This results from how the mind is set, in steadfastness or cowardice. And so I'll scorn all injury, and hardships will I disregard. When sorrows fall upon the wise, their minds should be serene and undisturbed, for in their war against defiled emotion, many are the hardships, as in every battle. Thinking scorn of every pain and vanquishing such foes as hatred, these are exploits of victorious warriors. The rest is slaying what is dead already. Suffering also has its worth. Through sorrow, pride is driven out, and pity felt for those who wander in samsara. Evil is avoided, goodness seems delightful. I am not angry with my bile and other humours, fertile source of suffering and pain, so why should living beings give offence? They likewise are impelled by circumstance. Although they are unlooked for, undesired, these ills afflict us all the same, and likewise, though unwanted and unsought, defilements nonetheless insistently arise. Never thinking, now I will be angry, people are impulsively caught up in anger. Irritation, likewise, comes through never plans to be experienced. All defilements of whatever kind, the whole variety of evil deeds, are brought about by circumstances. None is independent, none autonomous. Conditions once assembled have no thought that they will now give rise to some result. Nor does that which is engendered think that it has been produced. The primal substance, as they say, and that which has been called the self, do not arise designedly. And do not think, I will become. For that which is not born does not exist. So what could want to come to be, and permanently drawn towards its object, it can never cease from being so. Indeed, this self, if permanent, is certainly inert like space itself, and should it meet with other factors, how could they affect it, since it is unchanging? If, when conditions act on it, it stays just as it was before, what influence have these conditions had? They say that these are agents of the self, but what connection could there be between them? All things, then, depend on other things, and these likewise depend. They are not independent. Knowing this, we will not be annoyed at things that are like magical appearances. Resistance, you may say, is out of place, for what will be opposed by whom? The stream of sorrow is cut through by patience. There is nothing out of place in our assertion. Thus, when enemies or friends are seen to act improperly, remain serene and call to mind that everything arises from conditions. If things could be according to their wish, no suffering would ever come to anyone of all embodied beings, for none of them wants pain of any kind. Yet, carelessly, all unaware, they tear themselves on thorns, and ardent in pursuit of wives and goods, they starve themselves of nourishment. Some hang themselves or leap into the void, take poison or consume unhealthy food, or by their evil conduct bring destruction on themselves. For when affliction seizes them, they even slay themselves, the selves they love so much, so how can they not be the cause of others' bodily distress? Although we almost never feel compassion for those who through defilement bring about their own perdition, what purpose does our anger serve? If those who are like wanton children are by nature prone to injure others, there's no reason for our rage. It's like resenting fire for being hot. And if their faults are fleeting and contingent, if living beings are by nature mild, it's likewise senseless to resent them. As well be angry at the sky when it is full of smoke. Although it is their sticks that hurt me, I am angry at the ones who wield them, striking me. But they in turn are driven by their hatred. Therefore, with their hatred, I should take offense. In just the same way in the past, it was I who injured living beings. Therefore it is right that injury should come to me, their tormentor. Their weapons and my body, both are causes of my torment. They their weapons, I my body brandished. Who then is more worthy of my rage? This body, running sore in human form, merely touched, it cannot stand the pain. I am the one who grasped it in my blind attachment. Whom should I resent when pain occurs? We, who are like children, shrink from pain, but love its causes. We hurt ourselves through our misdeeds, so why should others be the object of our rage? And who indeed should I be angry with? This pain is all my own contriving. Likewise all the janitors of hell, and all the groves of razor trees. Those who harm me rise against me. It's my karma that has summoned them. And if through this these beings go to hell, is it not I who bring their ruin? Because of them and through my patience, all my many sins are cleansed and purified. But they will be the ones who, thanks to me, will have the long-drawn agonies of hell. Therefore I am their tormentor. Therefore it is they who bring me benefit. Thus with what perversity, pernicious mind, will you be angry with your enemies? If a patient quality of mind is mine, I shall avoid the pains of hell. But though indeed I save myself, what of my foes? What fate's in store for them? If I repay them harm for harm, indeed they'll not be saved thereby. My conduct will in turn be marred, austerity of patience brought to nothing. Because the mind is bodiless, it cannot be destroyed by anyone. Because of mind's attachment to the body, this body is oppressed by pain. Scorn and hostile words and comments that I do not like to hear, my body is not harmed by them. What reason do you have, O mind, for your resentment? The enmity that others show me, since in this or future lives it cannot actually devour me, why should I be so averse to it? Perhaps I turn from it because it hinders me from having what I want. But all my property I'll leave behind, while sins will keep me steady company. Better far for me to die today than live a long and evil life. However long the days of those like me, the pain of dying will be all the same. One man dreams he lives 100 years of happiness, but then he wakes. Another dreams an instant's joy, but then he likewise wakes. And when they wake, the happiness of both is finished, never to return. Likewise, when the hour of death comes round, our lives are over, whether brief or long. Though we be rich in worldly goods, delighting in our wealth for many years, despoiled and stripped as though by thieves, we must go naked and with empty hands. Perhaps we'll claim that by our wealth we live, and living gather merit, dissipating evil. But if we are aggressive for the sake of profit, won't our gains be evil, all our merits lost? And if the aim for which we live is thereby wasted and undone, what use is there in living thus, when evil is the only consequence? And if, when people slander us, we claim our anger is because they injure others, how is it we do not resent their slander when it's aimed at someone else? And if we bear this antipathy because it's due to other factors, why are we impatient when they slander us? Defilement, after all, has been the cause of it. Even those who vilify and undermine the sacred doctrine, images, and stupas are not improper objects of our anger. Buddhas are themselves untouched thereby. And even if our teachers, relatives, and friends are now the object of aggression, all derives from factors, as we have explained. This we should perceive and curb our wrath. Beings suffer injury alike from lifeless things as well as living beings, so why be angry only with the latter? Rather, let us simply bear with harm. Some do evil things because of ignorance. Some respond with anger, being ignorant. Which of them is faultless in such acts? To whom shall error be ascribed? Instead, why did they act in times gone by, that they are now so harmed at others' hands? Since everything depends on karma, why should I be angry at such things? This I see, and therefore, come what may, I'll hold fast to the virtuous path, and foster in the hearts of all an attitude of mutual love. Now when a building is ablaze and flames leap out from house to house, The wise course is to take and fling away the straw and anything that spreads the fire, and so, in fear that merit might be all consumed, we should at once cast far away our mind's attachments, tinder for the fiery flames of hate. Is it not a happy chance if, when condemned to death, a man is freed, his hand cut off in ransom for his life? And is it not a happy chance if now, to escape hell, I suffer only the misfortunes of the human state? If even these, my present pains, are now beyond my strength to bear, why do I not cast off my anger, cause of future sorrows in infernal torment? For sake of gaining all that I desired, 1,000 times I underwent the tortures of the realms of hell, achieving nothing for myself and others. The present aches are nothing to compare with those, and yet great benefits will come from them. These troubles that dispel the pain of wanderers, it's only right that I rejoice in them. When others take delight in giving praise to those endowed with talents, why, O mind, do you not find a joy likewise in praising them? The pleasure that is gained therefrom itself gives rise to blameless happiness. It's urged on us by all the holy ones, and is the perfect way of winning others. But they're the ones who'll have the happiness, you say. If this then is a joy you would resent, abandon paying wages and returning favors. You will be the loser, both in this life and the next. When praise is heaped upon your qualities, you're keen that others should be pleased thereby. But when the compliment is paid to others, you feel no inclination to rejoice as well. You who want the happiness of beings have wished to be enlightened for their sake. So why should others irk you when they find some pleasure for themselves? And if you claim to wish that beings be enlightened, honored by the triple world, when petty marks of favor come their way, why are you so discomforted? When dependents who rely on you, to whom you are obliged to give support, find for themselves the means of livelihood, will you not be happy? Will you once again be angry? If even this you do not want for beings, how could you want Buddhahood for them? And how can anyone have bodhicitta who is angry when another prospers? If someone else receives a gift, or if that gift stays in the benefactor's house, in neither case will it be yours. So, given or withheld, why is it your concern? All your merit and the faith of others, all your sterling qualities, why throw them all away? Not holding on to what might bring you riches, tell me, why are you not angry at yourself? Not only do you feel no sorrow for the evils you have done, you even wish to match yourself with those whose merit has been earned. If unhappiness befalls your enemies, why should this be cause for your rejoicing? The wishes of your mind alone will not in fact contrive their injury. And if your hostile wishes were to bring them harm, again, what cause of joy is that to you? Why then I would be satisfied. Are these your thoughts? Is anything more ruinous than that? Caught upon the hook, unbearable and sharp, cast by the fisherman, my own defilements I'll be flung into the cauldrons of the pit, and surely boiled by all the janitors of hell. Veneration, praise, and fame serve not to increase merit or my span of life, bestowing neither health nor strength, and nothing for the body's ease. If I am wise in what is good for me, I'll ask what benefit these bring. For if it's entertainment I desire, I might as well resort to alcohol and cards. I lose my life, my wealth I squander, all for reputation's sake. What use are words? and whom will they delight when I am dead and in my grave? Children can't help crying when their sandcastles come crumbling down. My mind is so like them when praise and reputation start to fail. Short-lived sound, devoid of intellect, can never in itself intend to praise me. I say that it's the joy that others take in me. It's this that is the cause of my delight. But what is it to me if others take delight in someone else, or even in myself? Their pleasure's theirs, and theirs alone. No part of it is felt by me. If I am happy at the joy of those who take delight, then everyone should be a source of joy to me. When people take delight in others, why am I not happy at their pleasure? The satisfaction that is mine from thinking I am being praised is unacceptable to common sense, and nothing but the antics of a silly child. Praise and compliments distract me, sapping my revulsion with samsara. I start to envy others their good qualities, and thus all excellence is ruined. Those who stay close by me, then, to damage my good name and cut me down to size, are surely there protecting me from falling into realms of grief. For I am one who strives for freedom. I must not be caught by wealth and honors. How could I be angry with the ones who work to free me from my fetters? They, like Buddha's very blessing, bar my way, determined as I am to plunge myself headlong in sorrow. How can I be angry with them? I should not be irritated, saying they are obstacles to my good deeds, for is not patience the supreme austerity, and should I not abide by this? And if I fail to practice patience, hindered by my own shortcomings, I myself create impediments to merit's causes, yet so close at hand. If something does not come to be when something else is absent, and does arise, that factor being present, that factor is indeed its cause. How can it then be said to hinder it? The beggars who arrive at proper times are not an obstacle to generosity. We cannot say that those who give the vows are hindrances to ordination. The beggars in this world are numerous. Assailants are comparatively few, for if I do no harm to others, others do no injury to me. So, like a treasure found at home, that I have gained without fatigue. My enemies are helpers in my bodhisattva work, and therefore they should be a joy to me. Since I have grown in patience thanks to them its first fruits I should give, for of my patience they have been the cause. And if I say my foes should not be honored, since they did not mean to stimulate my patience, why do I revere the sacred Dharma, cause indeed of my attainment? These enemies conspired to harm me, I protest, and therefore should receive no honors. But had they worked to help me like a doctor, how could I have brought forth patience? Thanks to those whose minds are full of malice, I engender patience in myself. They therefore are the causes of my patience, fit for veneration, like the Dharma. And so the mighty sage has spoken of the field of beings, as well as of the field of conquerors. Many who brought happiness to beings have passed beyond, attaining to perfection. Thus, the state of Buddhahood depends on beings and on Buddhas equally. What kind of practice is it, then, that honors only Buddhas but not beings? Not in the qualities of their minds, but in the fruits they give are they alike. In beings, too, such excellence resides, and therefore beings and Buddhas are the same. Offerings made to those with loving minds reveal the eminence of living beings. merit that accrues from faith in Buddha shows in turn the Buddha's eminence. Although not one of them is equal to the Buddhas, who are oceans of perfection, because they have a share in bringing forth enlightenment, Buddhas may be likened to the Buddhas. If of such gathering of supreme excellence a tiny part appeared in certain beings, the three worlds made in offering to them would be a very little thing. Since there lies in beings a share in bringing forth the supreme and enlightened state, by virtue of this parity alone, it's right that I should reverence them. The Buddhas are my true, unfailing friends. Boundless are the benefits they bring to me. How else may I repay their goodness but by making living beings happy? By helping beings, we repay the ones who sacrifice their lives for us and plunge into the hell of unrelenting pain. Should beings therefore do great harm to me, I'll strive to bring them only benefit. For those who have become my lords, at times took care not even of their bodies, why should I, a fool, behave with such conceit? Why should I not become the slave of others? Buddhas are made happy by the joy of beings. They sorrow, they lament when beings suffer. By bringing joy to beings, then I please the Buddhas also. By wounding them, I wound the Buddhas too. Just as there's no sensual delight to please the mind of one whose body burns in fire, there is no way to please the great compassionate ones, while we ourselves are causes of another's pain. The damage I have done to beings saddens all the Buddhas in their great compassion. Therefore, all these evils I confess today, and pray that they will bear with my offences, that I might rejoice the Buddha's hearts. Henceforth I will be master of myself, the servant of the world. I shall not seek revenge, though crowds may trample on my head or kill me. Let the guardians of the world rejoice. The great compassionate lords consider as themselves all beings. There's no doubt of this. Those whom I perceive as beings are Buddhas in themselves. How can I not treat them with respect? This very thing is pleasing to the Buddha's hearts and perfectly secures the welfare of myself. This will drive away the sorrows of the world, and therefore it will be my constant work. Imagine that the steward of a king does injury to multitudes of people. Those with clear, far-seeing eyes do not respond with violence, even if they can, for stewards, after all, are not alone. They are supported by the kingly power. Therefore, I will not despise the feeble beings tormenting me. Their allies are the guardians of hell, and also the compassionate Buddhas. Therefore, living beings I will gratify as subjects might placate a wrathful king. And yet the pains of hell to be endured through making living beings suffer, could these ever be unleashed on me by all the ire of such a king? And even if that king were pleased, enlightenment he could not give to me, for this will only be achieved by bringing happiness to beings. No need to mention future Buddhahood, achieved through bringing happiness to beings. How can I not see that glory, fame, and pleasure, even in this life, will likewise come? For patience in samsara brings such things as beauty, health, and good renown. Its fruit is great longevity, the vast contentment of a universal king. Chapter 7. Diligence. Thus with patience I will strive with diligence, for in such diligence enlightenment is found. If no wind blows, then nothing stirs, and neither is there merit without diligence. Diligence means joy in virtuous ways. Its contraries have been defined as laziness, an inclination for unwholesomeness, defeatism, and self-contempt, a taste for idle pleasure, and a craving for repose and sleep. No qualms about the sorrows of samsara. Laziness indeed is born from these. Snared by the trapper of defiled emotion, enmeshed and taken in the toils of birth, again you've strayed into the maw of death. What is it? Have you still not understood? Don't you see how, one by one, death has come for all your kind, and yet you slumber on so soundly like a buffalo beside its butcher? All the paths of flight are blocked. The Lord of Death now has you in his sights. How can you take such pleasure in your food, and how can you delight to rest and sleep? Death will swoop on you so swiftly. Gather merit till that moment comes, for even if you then throw off your indolence, what will you do when there is no more time? This I have not done, and this I'm only starting, and this I'm only halfway through. Then is the sudden coming of the Lord of Death, and oh, the thought, alas, I'm finished. You'll look upon the faces of your hopeless friends, their tear-stained cheeks, their red and swollen eyes, for such will be the depths of their distress. And then you'll see the heralds of the deadly Lord. The memory of former sins will torture you. The screams and din of hell break on your ears. With very terror you will foul yourself. What will you do in such delirium? If, like a living fish that twists and writhes, you are so terrified while still alive, what need to speak of pain unbearable in hells created by past evil deeds? How can you remain at ease like this when you have done the deeds that lead to contact on your tender baby flesh of boiling liquids in the hell of extreme heat? So testy and thin-skinned, you want results without endeavor. Many are the troubles now in store for you, though in the grip of death you are behaving like a god, and suffering, alas, will beat you down. So take advantage of this human boat. Free yourself from sorrow's mighty stream. This vessel will be later hard to find. The time that you have now, you fool, is not for sleep. You turn your back upon the sacred doctrine, supreme joy and boundless source of bliss. Why delight in mere excitement, in distractions that will cause you misery? Do not be downcast, but marshal all your powers. Make an effort. Be the master of yourself. Practice the equality of self and other. Practice the exchange of self and other. Oh, but how could I become enlightened? Don't excuse yourself with such despondency. The Buddha, who declares the truth, has truly spoken and proclaimed that if they bring forth strength of perseverance, even bees and flies and gnats and grubs will gain supreme enlightenment, so hard to find. And if by birth and lineage of humankind I'm able to distinguish good from ill, and do not leave aside the Bodhisattva deeds, why should I not attain the state of Buddhahood? That I must give away my life and limbs alarms and frightens me. If so, you say, your terror is misplaced. Confused, you fail to see what's hard and what is easy. For myriads of ages, measureless, uncounted, your body has been cut, impaled, burned, torn, for times past numbering, yet none of this has brought you Buddhahood. The hardships suffered on the path to Buddhahood are limited in their extent, and likened to the pain of an incision made to cure the harms of inward ills. And all our doctors cure disease by means of bitter remedies. Likewise, to destroy a vast amount of pain, we should be patient with our little hurts. and yet the Supreme Healer does not use, like them, these common remedies. With ways of extreme tenderness he soothes away intense and boundless suffering. Our guide instructs us to begin by giving vegetable greens or other little things, that later, step by step, the habit once acquired, we may be able to donate our very flesh. For when we truly feel our bodies are no different from the given herbs, what hardship can there be in giving up, relinquishing our very flesh? Sin has been abandoned, thus there is no pain. Through having wisdom there is no more sorrow. For so it is that mind and body both are injured by false views and sinfulness. Merit is the true cause of the body's ease, while happiness of mind is had through understanding. What can sadden those who have compassion, who remain within samsara for the sake of beings? For through their power of bodhicitta, former sins are totally consumed, and merit, ocean vast, is gathered in. It's therefore said that they excel the Shravakas. Mounted on the horse of bodhicitta, which puts to flight all mournful weariness, what lucid person could be in despair, proceeding this way from joy to joy? The forces that secure the good of beings are aspiration, steadfastness, relinquishment, and joy. Aspiration grows through fear of suffering and contemplation of the benefits to be obtained. Therefore, leaving everything that is adverse to it, I'll labor to increase my diligence through aspiration and self-confidence, relinquishment and joy, by strength of earnest application and exertion of control. The boundless evils of myself and others, I must bring them all to nothing, even though a single of these ills may take unnumbered ages to exhaust. And if I find within myself no sign that faults are even starting to be cleansed, why does my heart not burst asunder, destined as I am for boundless pain? Good qualities for my and others' sake, though they be many, I must now accomplish, even though for each of them I must endeavor for unnumbered ages. Acquaintance I have never gained with even part of such great qualities. It is indeed amazing that I render meaningless this life that somehow I have gained. Offerings to the Buddhas I have never made. No feasts were ever held through my donations. No works have I accomplished for the teachings. The wishes of the poor I left unsatisfied. I have not saved the frightened from their fear. The wretched I have not consoled. My mother's pain, her womb's discomfort, these alone are my accomplishments. My failure to aspire to Dharma now and in the past has brought me to my present dereliction. Who therefore would spurn such aspiration? Aspiration, so the sage asserted, is the root of every kind of virtue. Aspiration's root in turn is constant meditation on the fruits of action. The body's pains, anxieties of mind, and all my fears of various kinds, to be deprived of what I want, such is the harvest of my sinful deeds. But if my acts are good, sincerely intended, then no matter where I turn my steps, the merit gained will honor me with its resulting benefits. But if, through seeking happiness, my deeds are wrong, no matter where I turn my steps, the knives of misery will cut me down, the wage and retribution of a sinful life. Through virtue I will rest within the cool heart of a fragrant spreading lotus, with splendor nurtured by the sweet words of the conqueror. Then from the lotus opened in the sage's light, in supreme form, I will arise to dwell the blissful Buddha's air in presence of victorious ones. Or else as wages of my many sins, my skin completely flayed, I shall be utterly brought low by creatures of the Lord of Death, who on my body pour a liquid bronze all melted in the dreadful blaze, and pierced by burning swords and knives, my flesh dismembered in 100 parts will fall upon the white-hot iron ground. Therefore I will aspire and tend to virtue, and steep myself in it with great devotion, and with the methods stated in the Vajradhvaja, I will train in confident assurance. Let me first consider my reserves, to start or not to start accordingly. It might be better not to start, but once begun, I should not then withdraw. For if I do such things, the pattern will return in later lives, and sin and pain will grow, and other actions will be left undone, or else will bear a meagre fruit. Action, the afflictions, and ability, 3 things to which my pride should be directed. I will do this, I myself alone. These words define my pride of action. Overpowered by their mind's afflictions, worldly folk are helpless to secure their happiness. Compared with those who wonder, I am able. This therefore shall be my task. When others give themselves to low behavior, what shall be my stance in their regard? In any case, I'll not be arrogant. My best way is to give up such conceit. When they find a dying serpent, even crows behave like soaring eagles. Therefore, if I'm weak and feeble-hearted, even little faults will strike and injure me. But if depressed I give up trying, how can I gain freedom from my abject state? But if I stand my ground with proud resolve, it will be hard for even great faults to attack me. Therefore, with a steadfast heart, I'll get the better of my weaknesses. But if my failings get the upper hand, my wish to overcome the triple word is laughable indeed. I will be victor over all, and nothing shall prevail and bring me down. The offspring of the lion, the conqueror, should constantly abide in this self-confidence. Those whom arrogance destroys are thus defiled. They lack self-confidence. Those who have true confidence escape the foe, while others fall into the power of an evil pride. When arrogance inflates the mind, it draws it down to states of misery, or ruins happiness, should human birth be gained. Thus one is born a slave, dependent for one's sustenance, or feeble-minded, ugly without strength, the butt and laughing stock of everyone. These ascetics puffed up with conceit, if these you call the proud, then tell me who are wretched. Those who uphold pride to vanquish pride, the enemy, are truly proud, victorious and brave. And they who stem the increase of that evil pride perfect, according to their wish, the fruit of victory for beings. When I am beleaguered by defilements, I will stand and face them in 1,000 ways. I'll not surrender to the host of the afflictions, but like a lion I will stand amid a crowd of foxes. However great may be their peril, people will by reflex guard their eyes, and likewise I, whatever dangers come, must not fall down beneath defilement's power. Better for me to be burned to death, and better to be killed, my head cut off. At no time will I bow and scrape before that foe of mine, defiled emotion. Thus, in every time and place, I will not wander from the wholesome path. Like those who take great pleasure in their games, whatever task the Bodhisattvas do, let them devote themselves without reserve, with joyfulness that never knows satiety. People labor hard to gain contentment, though success is very hard from sure. But how can they be happy if they do not do those deeds that are the source of joy to them? And since they never have enough of pleasure, honey on the razor's edge, how could they have enough of merit, fruits of which are happiness and peace? The elephant, tormented by the noonday sun, will dive into the waters of a lake, and likewise I must plunge into my work that I might bring it to completion. If impaired by weakness or fatigue, I'll lay the work aside, the better to resume, and I will leave the task when it's complete, all avid for the work that's next to come. As seasoned fighters face the swords of enemies upon the battle line, I'll lightly dodge the weapons of defilement, and strike my enemy upon the quick. If in the fray the soldier drops his sword, in fright, he swiftly takes it up again. So likewise, if the arm of mindfulness is lost in fear of hell, I'll quickly get it back. Just as poison fills the body, borne on the current of the blood, likewise, evil, when it finds its chance, will spread and permeate the mind. I will be like a frightened man, a brimming oil jar in his hand, and menaced by a swordsman saying, "Spill one drop and you shall die." This is how practitioners should hold themselves. Just as a man would swiftly stand if in his lap a serpent were to glide, if sleep and lethargy beset me, I will speedily repulse them. Every time then that I fail, I will reprove and chide myself, thinking long that by whatever means, such faults in future shall no more occur. At all times and in any situation, how can I make mindfulness my constant habit? Thinking thus, I will desire to meet with teachers and fulfill the proper tasks. By all means, then, before I start some work, that I might have the strength sufficient to the task, I will recall the teachings upon carefulness and lightly rise to what is to be done. Just as flaxen threads waft to and fro, impelled by every breath of wind, so all I do will be achieved, controlled by movements of a joyful heart. Chapter 8. Meditative Concentration. Cultivating diligence, as just described, in concentration I will place my mind. For those whose minds are slack and wandering, are caught between the fangs of the afflictions. In solitude, the mind and body are not troubled by distraction. Therefore, leave this worldly life and totally abandon mental wandering. Because of loved ones and desire for gain, we fail to turn away from worldly things. These, then, are the first things to renounce. The prudent should conduct themselves like this. Penetrative insight joined with calm abiding utterly eradicates afflicted states. Knowing this, first search for calm abiding, found by people who are happy to be free from worldly ties. Beings brief, ephemeral, who strongly cling to what is also transient, will catch no glimpse of those they love for many thousands of their future lives. Not seeing them, their minds will have no joy. They therefore will not rest in equanimity. But even if they see them, they are not content, and as before, the pain of longing stays. If I crave for other beings, a veil is cast upon the perfect truth. Wholesome disillusion melts away, and finally there comes the sting of pain. My thoughts are all for them, and thus my life is frittered by. My family and friends all change and pass, for whom the changeless Dharma is cast out. For if I act like childish beings, sure it is that I shall fall to evil destinies. So why do I keep company with infants, who lead me to a state so far from virtue? One moment, friends, the next, their bitter enemies. Even pleasant things arouse their discontent. Ordinary people, it's hard to please them. A beneficial word, and they resent it, turning me instead from what is good. And when I close my ears to what they say, their anger makes them fall to lower states. Jealous of superiors, they vie with equals. Proud to those below, they strut when praised. Say something untoward, they seethe with rage. What good was ever had from childish folk? Keep company with them, and what will follow? Self-aggrandizement and scorn for others. Talk about the good things of samsara. Every kind of vice is sure to come. Only ruin can result from such a link between myself and others, for they will bring no benefit to me, and I in turn can do them nothing good. Therefore, flee the company of childish people. Greet them when you meet with smiles that keep on terms of common courtesy without inviting intimate relations. Like bees that get their honey from the flowers, take only what will serve the practice of the Dharma. Treat everyone like new acquaintances and keep yourself from close familiarity. Oh, I am rich and well respected. Lots of people take delight in me. Nourish such complacency, and later, after death, your fears will start. Indeed, O foolish and afflicted mind, you want and crave for all and everything. All this together will rise up as pain itself, increased 1,000-fold. Since this is so, the wise have no attachments. From such cravings, fear and anguish come, and fix this firmly in your understanding. All that may be wished for will by nature fade to nothing. For people may have gained great wealth of riches, enjoying reputation, sweet renown, but who can say where they have gone to now, with all the baggage of their golden fame? Why should I be pleased when people praise me? Others there will be who scorn and criticize, and why despondent when I'm blamed, since there'll be others who think well of me? So many are the leanings and the wants of beings, that even Buddha could not please them all, and of such a wretch as me no need to speak. I'll give up such concerns with worldly things. People scorn the poor who have no wealth. They also criticize the rich who have it. What pleasure can derive from keeping company with people such as these, so difficult to please? In kindness, childish beings take no delight unless their own desires are satisfied. A childish person thus is no true friend. This the Tathagatas have declared. In woodlands, haunt of stag and bird, among the trees where no dissension jars, it's there I would keep pleasant company. When might I be off to make my dwelling there? When shall I depart to make my home in cave or empty shrine or under spreading tree, with in my breast a free, unfettered heart, which never turns to cast a backward glance? When might I abide in such a place unclaimed and ownerless, that's wide and unconfined, a place where I might stay at liberty without attachment? When might I be free of fear, without the need to hide from anyone, with just a begging bowl and few belongings, dressed in garments coveted by none? and going to the charnel ground, when shall I compare my body with the dry bones there, so soon to fall to nothing, all alike? This form of mine, this very flesh, is soon to give out such a stench that even jackals won't come close, and that indeed is all it will become. This body now so whole and integral, this flesh and bone that life has knit together, will drift apart, disintegrate, and how much more will friend depart from friend? Alone we're born, alone we come into the world, and when we die, alone we pass away. No one shares our fate, and none our suffering. What need have I of friends who hinder me? Like those who journey on the road, who pause and lodge along the way, beings on the pathways of existence seize upon the lodging of their birth. Until the time comes around, when 4 men carry me away, amid the grief of worldly folk, till then I will away and go into the forest. There, with no befriending or begrudging, I will stay alone in solitude, considered from the outset as already dead, thus when I die, a source of pain to none. Then there will be no one standing by in tears and mourning, thus to trouble me, and no one will be there distracting me from thinking of the Buddha and the practice. Therefore in these lovely gleaming woods, with joy that's marred by few concerns, where mental wandering will cease, I will remain in blissful solitude. Relinquishing all other aspirations, focusing myself on one intent alone, I'll strive to still my mind, and calming it, to bring it to subjection. In this and in the worlds to come, desire's the parent of all woe. In this world, killing, bonds and wounds, and in the next, the hells and other pains. You send your go-betweens, both boy and maid, with many invitations for the prize, avoiding in the quest no sin, no deed that brings an ill renown, nor acts of frightful risk, nor loss and ruin of possessions, all for pleasure and the perfect bliss, that utmost penetrating kiss, of what in truth is nothing but a heap of bones, devoid of self, without autonomy. Is this the only object of desire and lust? Sooner pass beyond all suffering and grief. What pains you went to just to lift her face that modestly looked down, which looked upon or not before, was always with a veil concealed. That face, for which you languished so, well, here it is, now nakedly exposed. The vultures have uncovered it for you to see. What's this? You run away so soon? That which once you jealously protected, shielded from the eyes of other men, why, miser that you are, don't you protect it, now that it's the food of graveyard birds? Look, this mass of human flesh is now the fare of carrion beasts, and you would deck with garlands, sandalwood and jewels, the food and provender of others. Look again, this heap of bones, inert and dead. Why, what are you so scared of? Why did you not fear it when it walked around, just like a risen corpse, propelled by some strange influence? You loved it once, when clothed and draped it was. Well, now it's naked. Why do you not want it? Ah, you say your need is no more there. But why did you embrace it, all bedecked and covered? From food, a single source, come equally the body's filth and nectar of the mouth. So why are you delighted by saliva and yet repelled by excrement? Taking no delight in pillows made of cotton soft to touch, you claim the human form emits no stench. Befooled by lust, its filth you do not recognize. Lustful one, befuddled by desire, because you cannot copulate with it, you angrily find fault with cotton, soft though it may be to touch. And if you have no love of filth, how can you coddle on your lap a cage of bones tied fast with sinews, plastered over with the mud of flesh? In fact, you're full of filth yourself. You wallow in it constantly. It is indeed just filth that you desire, and therefore long for other sacks of it. But it's the skin and flesh I love to touch and look upon. Then why do you not wish for flesh alone, inanimate and in its natural state? The mind that you perhaps desire, you cannot hold or look upon. Whatever you can hold or see is not the mind. Why copulate with something it is not? To fail to grasp the unclean nature of another's flesh is not perhaps so strange, but not to see the filthy nature of oneself is very strange indeed. Why does the mind, intent on filthiness, neglect the fresh young lotus blossom, opened in the sunlight of a cloudless sky, to take joy rather in a sack of dirt? And since you're disinclined to touch a place or object grimed with excrement, why do you wish to touch the body whence such excrement has come? And if you have no craving for impurity, why will you now embrace and kiss what comes from such an unclean place, engendered likewise from an unclean seed? The tiny fetid worms that come from filth, you have no love of them, and yet you're lusting for a human form, from filth arisen and replete with it. Toward your own impurity, disgust you do not feel, and yearning and a thirst for filth, you long for other sacks of it. Pleasant substances like camphor, rice, and fresh green herbs, put them in your mouth, and spit them out. The earth itself is fouled thereby. If still you doubt such filthiness, though it is very plain for all to see, go off into the charnel grounds. Observe the fetid bodies there abandoned. When their skins are peeled away, you feel great horror and revulsion. Now that you have understood, how can you still take joy in such a thing? The scent that now perfumes the skin, is sandalwood and nothing else. Yet how is it that one thing's fragrance causes you to long for something else? Is it not best to have no lust for something that by nature stinks? The worldly crave beside their purpose. Why do they anoint their flesh with pleasant scents? For if this scent is sandalwood, how can it be the perfume of the body? How is it that the fragrance of a thing induces you to crave for something else? With lanky hair, with long nails overgrown, with dirty teeth, all reeking with the stink of slime, this body, naked as it is, untended, is indeed a horror to behold. Why go to such excess to clean and polish what is but a weapon that will injure you? The cares that people squander on themselves in ignorance convulse the universe with madness. When you saw the heaps of human bones, you felt revulsion in the charnel ground, and will you take delight in cities of the dead, frequented by such skeletons that live and move? What's more, possession of another's filth is not to be acquired free of charge. All is at a price, exhaustion in this life, and in the next, the suffering of hell. To gather riches, young boys are unable, and what can they enjoy when they're full grown? The whole of life is spent in gaining wealth, but then they're old, too old to satisfy their lust. Some are wretched in their great desire, but worn out by their day-long work. They go home, broken by fatigue, to sleep the slumbers of a corpse. Some, wearied by their travels far from home, must suffer separation from their wives and children whom they love and long to see. They do not meet with them for years on end. Some, ambitious for prosperity, not knowing how to get it, sell themselves. Happiness eludes their grasp, and pointlessly they live and labor for their masters. Some sell themselves, no longer free in bondage, slavery to others, and destitute, their wives give birth with only trees for shelter in the wild. Fools, deceived by craving for a livelihood, decide what they will make their fortune in the wars. Though fearful for their lives, and seeking gain, it's slavery they get. Some, as the result of craving, have their bodies slashed, impaled on pointed stakes. Some are wounded, run through by the lance, while some are put to death by fire. The pain of gaining, keeping, and of losing all. See the endless hardships brought on us by property. For those distracted by their love of wealth, there is no chance for freedom from the sorrows of existence. They indeed, possessed of many wants, will suffer many troubles, all for very little. They're like the ox that pulls the cart and catches bits of grass along the way. For sake of such a paltry thing which is not rare, which even beasts can find, tormented by their karma, they destroy this precious human life, so hard to find. All that we desire is sure to perish, on which account we fall to hellish pain. For what amounts to very little, we must suffer constant and exhausting weariness. With but a millionth part of such vexation, enlightenment itself could be attained. Those who crave are plagued far more than those engaged upon the path, yet Buddhahood is not what they attain. Reflect upon the pains of hell and other evil states, weapons, fires, and poisons, yawning chasms, hostile foes. None is on a level with our cravings. So, revolted by our lust and wanting, let us now rejoice in solitude, in places empty of all conflict and defilement, the peace and stillness of the forest. Happy those intent on others' good, who roam in pleasant places formed of massive stone, refreshed by moonlight's sandal-scented beams, by gentle woodland breezes soothed. In caves, beneath the trees, in houses left abandoned, may we linger long as we might wish. Relinquishing the pain of guarding our possessions, let us live in freedom, unconfined by cares. To have such liberty unmarred by craving, loosed from every bond and tie, a life of such contentment and such pleasure, even Indra would be pressed to find. Reflecting in such ways as these upon the excellence of solitude, pacify completely all discursiveness and cultivate the mind of bodhicitta. Strive at first to meditate upon the sameness of yourself and others. In joy and sorrow all are equal. Thus be guardian of all, as of yourself. The hand and other limbs are many and distinct, but all are one, the body to be kept and guarded. Likewise, different beings in their joys and sorrows are like me, all one in wanting happiness. This pain of mine does not afflict or cause discomfort to another's body, and yet this pain is hard for me to bear, because I cling and take it for my own. And other beings' pain I do not feel, and yet, because I take them for myself, their suffering is mine, and therefore hard to bear. And therefore I'll dispel the pain of others, for it is simply pain, just like my own, and others I will aid and benefit, for they are living beings like my body. Since I and other beings both in wanting happiness are equal and alike, what difference is there to distinguish us, that I should strive to have my bliss alone? Since I and other beings both, in fleeing suffering, are equal and alike, what difference is there to distinguish us, that I should save myself and not the others? Since the pain of others does no harm to me, I do not shield myself from it. So why to guard against my future pain, which does no harm to this, my present me? To think that I will have to bear it is in fact a false idea, for that which dies is one thing, what is born is something else. It's for the sufferers themselves, you'll say, to shield themselves from injuries that come. The pain felt in my foot is not my hands, so why in fact should one protect the other? True, it's inadmissible, you'll say. It happens simply through the force of ego clinging. But what is inadmissible for others and myself should be discarded utterly. Continua and gatherings, so-called, like garlands and like armies, are unreal, so there is no one to experience pain, for who is there to be its owner? Suffering has no possessor, therefore no distinctions can be made in it. Since pain is pain, it is to be dispelled. What use is there in drawing boundaries? But why dispel the pains of all? You cannot argue in this way. If my pain is removed, so too should that of others. If theirs is not, then neither should be mine. Compassion makes us feel such pain, you say, so why should we make efforts to engender it? But thinking of the sufferings of beings, how can you regard as great the smart of your compassion? And if through such a single pain a multitude of sorrows can be cured, such pain as this, all loving people strive to foster in themselves and others. Thus, Supushapandra, knowing that the king would cause him harm, did nothing to escape from tribulation, that the pains of many should be ended. Those whose minds are practiced in this way, whose joy it is to soothe another's ills, will venture into hell of unrelenting pain, as swans sweep down upon a lotus lake. The ocean-like immensity of joy, arising when all beings will be freed, will this not be enough? Will this not satisfy the wish for my own freedom? What is that to me? The work of bringing benefit to beings will not then make me proud and self-admiring. The happiness of others is itself my satisfaction. I do not expect another recompense. Therefore, just as I defend myself from even slight disparagement, in just the same way with regard to others, I should likewise have a mind protective and compassionate. The drop of sperm and blood belonged to others. Yet through strong habituation, I came to have in its regard a sense of I, though in itself it is devoid of entity. And so, why not identify another's body, calling it my I? And vice versa, why should it be hard to think of this, my body, as another's? Perceiving now the faults possessed by I, the ocean of good qualities that are in other, I shall lay aside all love of self and gain the habit of adopting other beings. Just as hands and other limbs are thought of as the members of a body, can we likewise not consider others as the limbs and members of a living whole? Just as in connection with this form, devoid of self, my sense of I arose through strong habituation, why should not the thought of I, through habit, not arise related to another? Thus, when I work for others' sake, there'll be no sense of boasting, self-congratulation. It is just as when I feed myself, I don't expect to be rewarded. Therefore, just as I defend myself from even slight disparagement, likewise for beings I shall now grow used to have a mind protective and compassionate. This is why the Lord Avalokita, out of great compassion, blessed his name, that those caught in the midst of multitudes might be released and freed from every fear. And so we should be undeterred by hardships. For through the influence of use and habit, people even come to grieve for those whose very name struck terror in their hearts. Those desiring speedily to be a refuge for themselves and others should make the interchange of I and other, and thus embrace a sacred mystery. Because of our attachment to our bodies, even little things alarm us. This body then, this source of so much terror, who would not detest it as the worst of foes? Wishing to relieve our body's ills, our hungry mouths, the dryness of our throats, we steal the lives of fishes, birds, and deer, and lie in wait along the road. And for the sake of profit and position, some there are who even kill their parents, or steal what has been offered to the triple gem, because of which they'll burn in hell of unrelenting pain. Where are the wise and prudent then, who cherish, guard, and serve the body, who would not perceive it as their foe, and as their foe regard it with contempt? If I give this, what will be left for me? Thinking of oneself, the way of evil ghosts. If I keep this, what will be left to give? Concern for others is the way of heaven. If to serve myself I harm another, I'll suffer later in the realms of hell. But if for others' sake I harm myself, then every excellence will be my heritage. Wanting what is best for me, stupidity, inferiority, and lower realms result. Let this be changed, applied to others. Honors and the realms of bliss will come. Enslaving others, forcing them to serve me, I will come to know the state of servitude. But if I labor for the good of others, mastery and leadership will come to me. All the joy the world contains has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery the world contains has come through wanting pleasure for oneself. Is there need for lengthy explanation? Childish beings look out for themselves. Buddhas labor for the good of others. See the difference that divides them. If I do not interchange my happiness for others' pain, enlightenment will never be attained, and even in samsara joy will fly from me. Leaving future lives outside the reckoning, even this life's needs are not fulfilled. The servants do not do their work, and masters do not pay the wages earned. Casting far away abundant joys that may be gained in this or future lives because of bringing harm to other beings, I ignorantly bring myself intolerable pain. All the harm with which this world is rife, all fear and suffering that there is, clinging to the I has caused it. What am I to do with this great demon? If this I is not relinquished wholly, sorrow likewise cannot be avoided. If they do not keep away from fire, people can't escape from being burned. To free myself from harm and others from their sufferings, let me give myself to others. loving them as I now love myself. For I am now beneath the rule of others. Of this you must be certain, O my mind, and now no longer shall you have a thought that does not wish the benefit of beings. My sight and other senses, now the property of others, to use them for myself would be improper, and it is likewise disallowed to use my faculties against their owners. Thus, sentient beings will be my chief concern, and everything I see my body has will all be seized and offered for the use and service of all other beings. Take others, lower, higher, equal, as yourself. Identify yourself as other. Then, without another thought, immerse yourself in envy, pride, and rivalry. He's the center of attention. I am nothing. And unlike him, I'm poor without possessions. Everyone looks up to him, despising me. All goes well for him. For me, there's only bitterness. All I have is sweat and drudgery. While he's there, sitting at his ease, he's great, respect in the world, while I'm the underdog, a well-known nobody. What? A nobody without distinction? Not true. I do have some good qualities. Compared with some, he's lower down. Compared with some, I do excel. My discipline, my understanding have declined, but I am helpless, ruled by my defilements. As much as he is able, he should cure me. I will be submissive, even to his punishments. The fact is, he does nothing of the sort. By what right, then, does he belittle me? What use, then, are his qualities to me, those qualities of which he's so possessed? Indifferent to the plight of living beings who tread the brink of evil destinies, he makes an outward show of virtues and even wants to vie with sages. That I might excel, outstripping him, regarded as my peer and equal, in contests I will certainly secure my fame and fortune, public renown. By every means I'll advertise my gifts to all the world, ensuring that his qualities remain unknown, ignored by everyone. My faults I will conceal, dissimulate, for I, not he, will be the object of devotion. I, not he, will gain possession and renown. I will be the center of attention. I will take such satisfaction in his evil deeds and degradation. I will render him despicable, the butt and laughing stock of everyone. People say this pitiful nonentity is trying to compete with me, but how can he be on a par with me in learning, beauty, wealth, or pedigree? Just to hear them talk about my excellence, my reputation on the lips of all, the thrill of it sends shivers down my spine, a pleasure that I bask and revel in. Even if he does have something, I'm the one he's working for. He can keep enough just to survive, but with my strength I'll steal the rest away. I will wear his happiness away. I will always hurt and injure him. He's the one who in samsara did me mischiefs by the 100. Countless ages, O my mind, you spent desiring to attain your aims, and what great weariness it was, while your reward was only misery. And therefore, now most certainly, apply yourself completely to the good of others. The Buddha did not lie in what he said. You'll see the benefits that come from it. If indeed you had in former times embraced this work and undertaken it, you could not still be lacking in the perfect bliss of Buddhahood. Therefore, just as you identify a drop of others' blood and sperm, and cling to it as though it were yourself. Now take sentient beings, others, as yourself. Now for others you should spy on everything your body seems to have, steal it, take it all away, and use it for the benefit of others. I indeed am happy, others sad. I am high and mighty, others low. I am helped while others are abandoned. Why am I not jealous of myself? Happiness, fulfillment, these I give away. The pain of others, this I will embrace, inquiring of myself repeatedly. I will thus investigate my faults. When others are at fault, I'll take and turn the blame upon myself, and all my sins, however slight, declare and make them known to many. The fame of others I will magnify, that it might thus outshine my own. Among them I will be as one who serves my lowly labor for their benefit. This ego is by nature rife with faults. Its accidental gifts I should not praise. Whatever qualities it has, I'll so contrive that they remain unknown to everyone. All the harm, in short, that ego does, to its advantage and to others' cost, may all of it descend upon itself to its own hurt, to others' benefit. Do not let it strut about the place, so arrogant, so overbearing, but like a newly wedded bride, let it be demure and blushing, timorous and shy. Do this, be like that. Such things don't ever do. It's thus that you will bring it forcibly to heel. And if it oversteps the mark, well, then apply the lash. And so, O mind, if still you will refuse, though you have been so lengthily advised, since every evil has its roots in you, you are indeed now ripe for punishment. The time when you could do me harm is in the past, and now is here no more. Now I see you. Where will you escape? I'll bring you down with all your haughty insolence. Let every thought of working for yourself be utterly rejected, cast aside. Now that you've been sold to others, stop your whining, be of service. For if, through being inattentive, I do not deliver you to others, you will hand me over, it is certain, to the guards and janitors of hell. For this is how so many times you have betrayed me, and how long I've suffered. Now my memory is full of rancor. I will crush your selfish schemes. And so it is, that if I want contentment, I should never seek to please myself. And likewise, if I wish to guard myself, of others I should always be the guard. To the extent this human form is cosseted and saved from hurt, just so to that degree, it dwindles to a weak and fretful state. For those who sink to such a pass, the earth and all it holds are powerless to satisfy. For who can give them all they crave? Their hopeless craving brings them misery, and evil schemes invade their minds, while those with free, untrammeled hearts will never know an end of excellence. Therefore, for the increase of my body's wants, I'll give no space, no opportunity, and of possessions those things that are the best, that do not captivate by their attractiveness. Dust and ashes are the body's final state. This body which, inert, is moved by other forces. This form so frightening and foul, why do I so regard it as myself? Alive or dead, what difference does it make? What use is this machine to me? What difference will divide it from a clod of earth? Alas, that I don't rid myself of pride. Through lavishing attention on this body, such sorrow have I brought myself so senselessly. What use is all my wanting, all my hating, for what indeed is like a log of wood? Whether I protect and pamper it, or whether it is eaten up by carrion birds, this body feels no pleasure, no aversion. Why then do I cherish it so much? Resentment when it is reviled, or pleasure when it is esteemed, neither of these two my body feels. So why do I exhaust myself? If I say I do it since it's loved by other people, others whom I thus regard as friends, since all appreciate the bodies that they have, why do I not take pleasure in them too? Therefore, free from all attachment, I will give this body for the benefit of beings, and though it is afflicted by so many faults, I shall adopt it as my necessary tool. And so, enough of all my childish ways. I'll follow in the footsteps of the wise, recalling their advice on carefulness. I'll shun all sleep and mental dullness. Like the Buddha's heirs, in their compassion, I will bear with all that should be borne. For if I do not labor night and day, when will my sorrows reach their end? Thus, to banish all obscuring veils, I'll bend my mind from the mistaken path, and constantly upon the perfect object I shall rest my mind in even meditation. Chapter 9. Wisdom. All these branches of the doctrine the enlightened sage expounded for the sake of wisdom. Therefore they must cultivate this wisdom who wish to have an end of suffering. Relative and ultimate, these the two truths are declared to be. The ultimate is not within the reach of intellect, for intellect is said to be the relative. In light of this, within the world, two kinds of people are observed, those with yogic insight and the common run of people. In this regard, the views of ordinary folk are undermined by yogis who themselves are in the world, within whose ranks the lower in degrees of insight are confuted by the higher. By means of the examples that the yogis and the worldly both accept, and for the sake of the result, analysis is left aside. When ordinary folk perceive phenomena, they look on them as real and not illusory. This then is the subject of debate, where ordinary and yogis differ. Forms and so forth, which we all perceive, exist by general acclaim but not by valid reasoning. They're false, just like, for instance, unclean things, regarded in the common view as pure. But that he might instruct the worldly, our protector spoke of things, but these in truth lack even momentariness. Now, if you say it's wrong to claim the momentary as relative, there is no fault, for momentariness is relative for yogis, but for worldly beings, ultimate. Were it otherwise, the common view could fault the yogic insight into corporal impurity. Through a Buddha, who is but illusion? How does merit spring? As if the Buddha were existing truly. But you ask, if beings are like illusions, how, when dying, can they take rebirth? As long as the conditions are assembled, illusions likewise will persist and manifest. Why, through simply being more protracted, should sentient beings be regarded as more real? If one kills or harms the magical illusion of a man, there is no mind in such a thing, and therefore there's no sin. But beings do indeed have mirage-like minds. Sin and merit will in consequence arise. There is no power in things like spells, so mirage-like minds do not occur through them. Illusions spring from various causes. Thus, illusions are of different kinds. A single cause for everything. There never was. If ultimately beings are in nirvana, you will say, but relatively circle in samsara, even Buddhahood reverts to the samsaric state. So why, you ask, pursue the Bodhisattva path? As long as there's no cutting of the causal stream, there is no halting even of illusory displays. But when the causal stream is severed, even relative phenomena do not appear. If even that which is deceived does not exist, what is it, you will ask, that sees illusion? But if for you these same illusions have no being, what indeed is there to be perceived? But objects have another mode of being, you will say. That very mode is but the mind itself. But if the mirage is the mind itself, what is then perceived by what? The guardian of the world himself has said that mind cannot be seen by mind. In just the same way, he has said, the sword's edge cannot cut the sword. But, you say, it's like the flame that perfectly illuminates itself. The flame, in fact, can never light itself. And why? Because the darkness never dims it. The blueness of a thing by nature blue, you say, depends, unlike a crystal, upon nothing else. Likewise, some perceptions come from other things, while some do not. But something that's by nature blue has never of itself imposed a blueness on its non-blue self. The phrase, the lamp illuminates itself, the mind can know and formulate, but what is there to know and say that mind is self-illuminating? The mind indeed is never seen by anything, and therefore whether it can know or cannot know itself is like the beauty of a barren woman's daughter, something that it's pointless to discuss. But if you ask, the mind is not self-knowing, how does it remember what it knew? We say that, like the poison of the water rat, it's through the link with things experienced that memory occurs. In certain cases, you will say, the mind can see the minds of others. How then not itself? But through the application of a magic balm, the eye may see the treasure, but the salve it does not see. It's not indeed our purpose to disprove experiences of sight or sound or knowing. Our aim is here to undermine the cause of sorrow, the thought that such phenomena have true existence. Illusions are not other than the mind, you say, and yet you don't consider them the same. How could they not be different if the mind is real? And how can mind be real if you deny a difference? Although it is unreal, a mirage can be seen, and that which sees is just the same. But samsara must be based on something real, you say, or else it is like empty space. But how could the unreal be causally effective even if it rests on something real? This mind of yours is isolated and alone, alone in solitude and unaccompanied. If the mind indeed is free of objects, all beings must be Buddhas, thus gone and enlightened. And so, what purpose can there be in saying thus that there is only mind? Even if we know that all is like illusion, how, you ask, will this dispel afflictive passion? Magicians may indeed themselves desire the mirage, women they themselves create. The reason is they have not rid themselves of habits of desiring objects of perception. And when they gaze upon such things, their aptitude for emptiness is weak indeed. By training in this aptitude for emptiness, the habit to perceive real things will be relinquished. By training in the thought, there isn't anything, this view itself will also be abandoned. There is nothing. When this is asserted, no thing is there to be examined. How can a nothing wholly unsupported rest before the mind as something present? When something and its non-existence both are absent from before the mind, no other option does the latter have. It comes to perfect rest, from concepts free. As the wishing jewel and tree of miracles fulfill and satisfy all hopes and wishes, likewise, through their prayers for those who might be trained, the physical appearance of the conquerors occurs. The healing shrine of the Garuda, even when its builder was long dead, continued even ages thence to remedy and soothe all plagues and venom. Likewise, having gained the shrine of victory in accordance with their deeds for sake of Buddhahood, though bodhisattvas pass beyond all grief, they yet can satisfy all ends. But how, you ask, can offerings made to beings freed from all discursiveness give fruit? It's said that whether Buddhas live or pass beyond, the offerings made to them are equal in their merit. Whether you assert them in the ultimate or relative merit, so the scriptures say, arises just as there will be results when Buddhas are considered truly real. We're free, you say, through seeing the Four Truths. What use is it to us, this view of emptiness? But as the scriptures have themselves proclaimed, without this path there can be no enlightenment. You say the Mahāyāna has no certainty, but how do you substantiate your own tradition? Because it is accepted by both parties, you will say, but at the outset you yourself lacked proof. The reasons why you trust in your tradition may likewise be applied to Mahāyāna. Moreover, if accord between two parties shows the truth, the Vedas and the rest are also true. Mahāyāna is at fault, you say, because it is contested. But Buddhist texts are questioned by extremists, while Buddhists also vie among themselves, and so your own tradition you must now abandon. The true monk is the root of Dharma, and to be a monk is difficult indeed. It's hard for minds enmeshed in thoughts to pass beyond the bonds of suffering. You say there's liberation in the instant, that defilements are entirely forsaken. Yet those who come from defilements are set free, continue to display the influence of karma. Only for a while, you say, for it is certain that the causes of rebirth, their cravings are no more. They have no craving, granted, through defilement, but like their ignorance, why should they not have craving undefiled? This craving is produced by virtue of sensation, and sensation this they surely have. Concepts linger still within their minds, and it is to these concepts that they cling. The mind that has not realized voidness may be halted, but will once again arise, just as from a non-perceptual absorption. Therefore, one must train in emptiness. If all the words recorded in the sutras you admit to be the Buddha's perfect speech, why don't you now accept the greater part of Mahāyāna, with which your sutras are in perfect harmony? If due to just a single jarring element, the whole is held to be at fault, why should a single sutra, in agreement with your texts, not vindicate the rest as Buddha's teaching? Mahākāshyapa himself and others could not sound the depths of such a teaching. Who will therefore say that they're to be rejected, just because they are not grasped by you. To linger and abide within samsara, freed from every craving and from every fear, in order to achieve the good of those who ignorantly suffer, such is the fruit that emptiness will bear. Therefore it is incorrect to find fault with this view of emptiness. And so, with every doubt abandoned, we should meditate on it. Afflictive passion and the veil upon cognition, the cure for their obscurity, is emptiness. How then shall they not meditate on this, who wish for swift attainment of omniscience? Whatever is the source of suffering, let that be the object of our fear. But voidness will allay our every grief. How could it be for us a thing of dread? If such a thing as I exists indeed, then terrors granted will torment it. But since no self or I exists at all, what is there left for fears to terrify? The teeth, the hair, the nails are not the eye, and I is not the bones or blood. The mucus from the nose and phlegm are not the eye, and neither is it made of lymph or pus. The eye is not the body's grease or sweat. The lungs and liver likewise do not constitute it, neither are the inner organs eye, nor yet the body's excrement and waste. The flesh and skin are not the eye, and neither are the body's warmth and breath. The cavities within the frame are not the eye, and I is not accounted for in sixfold consciousness. If the hearing consciousness is permanent, it follows that it's hearing all the time. And if there is no object, what does it cognize? On what grounds do you call it consciousness? If something that's unconscious knows, it follows that a stick has knowledge also. Therefore, in the absence of a thing to know, it's clear that consciousness will not arise. If the selfsame consciousness detects a form, at that time, why does it not hear? Perhaps, you say, the sound's no longer there. Then neither is there consciousness of sound. How could that which has the nature of a sound perceiver ever be transformed into a form perceiver? A single man, you say, can be both son and father. But these are merely names. His nature is not so. And likewise pain, neutrality, and pleasure are neither fatherhood nor sonship. And we indeed have never yet observed a consciousness of form perceiving sound. But like an actor, you reply, it takes a different role and sees. If so, this consciousness is not a constant thing, and if its later mode is still the first, that's identity indeed, and never seen before. But its different modes, you say, are quite unreal. Its essence, therefore, you must now describe. You say that this is simply knowing. It follows that all beings are a single thing. What has mind and what does not have mind are thus identical, for both are equal in existing. If the different kinds of mind are all unreal, what common basis can there be for them? Something destitute of mind, we hold, is not a self, for mindlessness means matter like a vase. But, you say, the self has consciousness when joined to mind. Then this refutes its nature of unconsciousness. If the self, moreover, is immutable, what change in it could mingling with the mind produce? And selfhood we might equally affirm of empty space, inert and destitute of mind. If self does not exist, you say, there is no link connecting actions with results. If, when the deed is done, the doer is no more, who is there to reap the karmic fruit? The bases of the act and fruit are not the same. In both, the self is without scope for action. This is valid both for you and us. What point is there, therefore, in our debate? A cause coterminous with its result is something quite impossible to see, and only in the context of a single mental stream can it be said that one who acts will later reap the fruit. The thoughts now past and those to come are not the self. They are no more, or are not yet. Is then the self the thought which now is born? If so, it sinks to nothing when the latter fades. For instance, we may take banana trees, cutting through the fibers, finding nothing. Likewise, analytical investigation will find no I, no underlying self. If beings, you will say, have no existence, who will be the object of compassion? Those whom ignorance imputes, for whose sake we have pledged ourselves. If, you ask, there are no beings, who will gain the fruit? It's true, it is through ignorance that they are said to be, but for the total vanquishing of sorrow, the goal which ignorance conceives should not be spurned. The source of sorrow is the pride of saying I. It's fostered and increased by false belief in self. To this you may believe that there is no redress, but meditation on no self will be the supreme way. What we call the body is not feet or shins, the body likewise is not thighs or loins, it's not the belly or indeed the back, and from the chest and arms the body is not formed. The body is not ribs or hands, armpits, shoulders, bowels or entrails, it is not the head, and it is not the throat. What is the body then in all of this? If the body spreads itself, and with the members coincides, its parts indeed are present in those parts, but where does body in itself abide? But if the body, single and entire, is present in the hands and other members, however many parts there are, the hands and all the rest, you'll find an equal quantity of bodies. If body is not outside or within its parts, how is it then residing in its members? And since it is not other than its parts, how can you say that it exists at all? Thus there is no body. It is through illusion with regard to hands and other parts that body as a notion is conceived, just as on account of its specific shape, a pile of stones is taken for a man. As long as the conditions are assembled, the body will appear to be a man. As long as all the parts are likewise present, a body will appear therein. Likewise, since it is a group of fingers, the hand itself does not exist as such, and so it is with fingers made of joints, and joints themselves consist of many parts. These parts themselves will break down into particles, and particles divide according to direction. These fragments, too, lack partless parts. They are like space. Thus, even particles have no existence. All form, therefore, is like a dream. And who will be attached to it, who thus investigates the body in this way has no existence? What, therefore, is male, and what is female? If suffering itself is truly real, why is joy not altogether quenched thereby? If pleasure's real, then why will pleasant tastes not comfort and amuse a man in agony? If the feeling fails to be experienced through being overwhelmed by something stronger, how can feeling rightly be ascribed to that which lacks the character of being felt? Perhaps you say that only subtle pain remains. Its grosser form has now been overmastered, or rather it is felt as mere pleasure. But what is subtle still remains itself. If, because its opposite is present, discomfort fails to manifest, is not the claim that it's a feeling no more than a mental imputation? Since so it is, the antidote is meditation and analysis. Absorption grown in fields of their investigation is indeed the food and sustenance of yogis. If between the sense power and a thing there is a space, how will the two terms meet? And if there is no space, they form a unity, and therefore what is it that meets with what? No penetration can there be of particle by particle, for they are both the same in lacking volume. But if they do not penetrate, they do not merge, and if they do not merge, there's no encounter. For how could anyone accept that what is partless could be said to meet? And you must show me, if you ever saw, a contact taking place between two partless things. Consciousness is immaterial, and so one cannot speak of contact with it. A combination, too, has no reality, just as we have previously shown. If therefore there's no touch or contact, whence is it that feeling takes its rise? What purpose is there then in all our toil? For what is it indeed that torments what? Since there is no subject for sensation, and sensation too lacks all existence, how is craving not arrested when all this is clearly understood? What we see and what we touch is stuff of dreams and mirages. If feeling is coincident with consciousness, it follows that it is not seen thereby. If the one arises first, the other after, memory occurs and not direct sensation. Sensation is without perception of itself, and likewise by another it is not perceived. The agent of sensation has no real existence. Thus sensation likewise has no being. What damage, therefore, can sensation do to it, this aggregate deprived of self? The mind within the senses does not dwell. It has no place in outer things like form, and in between the mind does not abide. Not out, not in, not elsewhere can the mind be found. It is not in the body, yet is nowhere else. It does not merge with it, nor stand apart. Something such as this does not exist, not even slightly. Beings by their nature are beyond the reach of suffering. If consciousness precedes the cognized object, with regard to what does it arise? If consciousness arises at the same time as its object, again, regarding what does it arise? If consciousness comes later than its object, once again, from what does it arise? Thus the origin of all phenomena exceeds the reach of understanding. If this is so, you say, there is no relative, and that then the two truths, what becomes of them? Moreover, if the relative derives from beings' minds, how can they pass beyond their sorrows? But that is just the thought of others. It is not what I mean by the relative. If subsequently there are thoughts, the relative's still there. If not, the relative has ceased indeed. The analyzing mind, and what is analyzed, are linked together, mutually dependent. It is on the basis of conventional consensus that all investigation is expressed. But when you say the process of analysis is made, in turn the object of our scrutiny, this investigation likewise may be analyzed, and thus we find an infinite regress. If phenomena are truly analyzed, no basis for analysis remains. And when the object is removed, the subject too subsides. That indeed is said to be nirvana. Those who say that both are true are hard-pressed to maintain their case. If consciousness reveals the truth of things, on what grounds in its turn does consciousness exist? If knowledge objects show that consciousness exists, what is it that shows that they exist? If both subsist through mutual dependence, both will thereby lose their true existence. If without a son a man cannot be father, whence indeed will such a son arise? There is no father in the absence of a son. Just so the mind and object have no true existence. The plant arises from the seed, you say, and through it is the seed deduced. It's just the same with consciousness arising from its object. How can it fail to show the thing's existence? A consciousness that's different from the plant itself deduces the existence of the seed. But what will show that consciousness exists, whereby the object is itself established? In everyday perception, there's a cause for everything. The different segments of the lotus flower arise from a variety of causes. But what gives rise, you ask, to such a variety of causes? An even earlier variety of causes, we declare. And how, you ask, do causes give their fruits? Through power, we answer, of preceding causes. If Ishvara is said to be the cause of beings, you must now define for us his nature. If by this you simply mean the elements, no need to tire ourselves disputing names. Yet earth and other elements are many, impermanent, inert, without divinity, trampled underfoot, they are impure, and thus they cannot be a God omnipotent. The deity cannot be space, inert and unproductive. He cannot be the self, for this we have refuted. He's inconceivable, they say. Then likewise his creatorship. Is there any point, therefore, to such a claim? What is it that he wishes to create? Has he made the self and all the elements, but are not self and elements and he himself eternal? And consciousness, we know, arises from its object. Pain and pleasure have, from all time, sprung from karma. So tell us, what has his divinity produced? And if there's no beginning in the cause, how can there be beginnings in its fruits? Why are creatures not created constantly? For Ishvara relies on nothing but himself, and if there's nothing that he has not made, what remains on which he might depend? If Ishvara depends, the cause of all is but the meeting of conditions and not Ishvara. When these obtain, he cannot but create. When these are absent, he is powerless to make. If Almighty God does not intend, but yet creates, another thing has forced him. If he wishes to create, he is swayed by his desire. So even though creator, what of his omnipotence? Those who hold the permanence of particles were indeed refuted earlier. The Samkhyas are the ones who hold that permanent prakriti is the cause of the evolving world. Pleasure, pain, neutrality, so called, are qualities which, when they rest in equilibrium, are termed prakriti. The universe arises when this balance is disturbed. Three natures in a unity are disallowed, and thus prakriti is without existence. These qualities likewise do not exist, for each of them indeed is three. If these qualities have no existence, a thing like sound is very far from plausible, and cloth and other mindless objects cannot be the seat of feelings such as pleasure. But, you say, these things possess the nature of their cause. But have we not investigated things already? For you the cause is pleasure and the like, and yet from pleasure cloth has never sprung. Pleasure rather is produced from cloth. If this is non-existent, pleasure likewise. As for permanence of pleasure and the rest, well, there's a thing that's never been observed. If pleasure and the rest are manifestly present, how comes it that they're not perceived? And if you claim they take on subtle form, how is it that they are both gross and subtle? If coarseness is abandoned, subtlety assumed, subtlety and grossness both lack permanence. So why not grant that, in this way, all things possess the character of transience? If the coarser aspect is none other than the pleasure, it's clear that pleasure is itself impermanent. If you claim that what does not exist in any sense, because it has no being, cannot manifest, although you have denied the birth of things that did not previously exist, it's this that you're now saying. But if results exist within their cause, those who eat their food consume their excrement. And likewise with the money they would spend on clothing, let them rather buy the cotton grains to wear. But, you say, the world is ignorant and blind, for this is taught by those who know the truth. This knowledge must be present in the worldly too, and if they have it, why do they not see? If now you say that what the worldly see has no validity, this means that what they clearly see is false. If you ask there's no validity in valid knowledge, is not all that it assesses false, and therefore it becomes untenable to meditate on voidness, ultimate reality? If there is no object for analysis, there can be no grasping of its non-existence, and so deceptive objects of whatever kind will also have a non-existence equally deceptive. When therefore in one's dream a child has died, the state of mind that thinks it is no more supplants the thought that it is living still, and yet both thoughts are equally deceptive. Therefore, as we see through such investigation, nothing is that does not have a cause, and nothing is existent in its causes, taken one by one or in the aggregate. It does not come from somewhere else, neither does it stay nor yet depart. How will what confusion takes for truth in any sense be different from a mirage? Things, then, bodied forth by magic spells, and that which is displayed by dint of causes, whence have these arisen, we should ask, and where they go to, we should examine. What is seen when circumstances meet, and is not seen in absence of the same, is not real. It is like an image in a mirror. How can true existence be ascribed to it? What need is there for cause in something that's already real? But then, what need is there for cause in something that does not exist? Even through 100 million causes, no change takes place in non-existent things. For in that state of non-thing, how could things occur? And into what could non-existent things transform? Since things cannot become when they are non-existent, when could such existent things occur? For insofar as entities do not arise, non-entities themselves will not depart. And if non-entity is not dispersed, no chance is there for entity to manifest. And entity cannot be changed into non-entity, for otherwise it has a double nature. Thus there are no entities, and likewise there's no ceasing of the same, and therefore beings, each and every one, are without origin and never cease. Wandering beings thus resemble dreams. And also the banana tree, if you examine well, in ultimate reality there's no distinguishing between the states of sorrow and beyond all sorrow. With things that in this way are empty, what is there to gain and what to lose? Who is there to pay me court and honours, and who is there to scorn and to revile me? Pleasure Sorrow, whence do these arise? What is there to give me joy and pain? And if I search their very suchness, who is craving? What is craved? Examine now this world of living beings. Who is there therein to pass away? What is there to come? And what has been? And who indeed are relatives and friends? May beings like myself discern and grasp that all things have the character of space. But those who seek their happiness and ease through disputes or enjoyments, all are deeply troubled, or else thrilled with joy. They suffer, strive, contend among themselves, slashing, stabbing, injuring each other. They live their lives engulfed in evil and travail. From time to time they surface in the states of bliss, abandoning themselves to many pleasures. But dying, down they fall to suffer torment, long, unbearable, in realms of sorrow. Many are the chasms and abysses of existence where the truth of suchness is not found. All is contradiction, all denial. Suchness in this world is not like this. Here, exceeding all description, is the shoreless sea of pain unbearable. Here it is that strength is low, and lives are flickering and brief. All activities for sake of life and health, relief of hunger and of weariness, time consumed in sleep, all accident and injury, and sterile friendships with the childish. Thus life passes quickly, meaningless, true discernment, hard it is to have. How therefore shall we ever find the means to curb the futile wanderings of the mind? Further, evil forces work and strain to cast us down into the states of woe. Manifold are false deceptive trails, and it is hard to dissipate our doubts. Hard it is to find again this state of freedom, harder yet to come upon enlightened teachers, hard indeed to turn aside the torrent of defilement. Alas, our sorrows fall in endless streams. Alas indeed that living beings carried on the flood of bitter pain, however terrible their plight may be, do not perceive they suffer so. They are like those who bathe themselves repeatedly and then proceed to scorch themselves with fire. They suffer greatly in this way, yet there they stay, proclaiming loud their bliss. Likewise, there are some who live and act as though old age and death will never come to them. But first they're slain, and then there comes the dreadful fall into the states of loss. When shall I be able to allay and quench the dreadful heat of suffering's blazing fires, with plenteous rains of my own bliss that pour torrential from my clouds of merit? My wealth of merit gathered in, with reverence but without conceptual target, when shall I reveal this truth of emptiness to those who go to ruin through belief in real existence? Chapter 10. Dedication. By all the virtue I have now amassed, by composition of this book, which speaks of entry to the Bodhisattva way, may every being tread the path to Buddhahood. May beings everywhere who suffer torment in their minds and bodies have, by virtue of my merit, joy and happiness in boundless measure. As long as they may linger in samsara, may their joy be undiminished. May they taste of unsurpassed beatitude in constant and unbroken continuity. Throughout the spheres and reaches of the world, in hellish states as many as there are, may beings who abide there taste the bliss and peace of Sukhavati. May those caught in the freezing ice be warmed, and from great clouds of bodhisattvas torrents rain in boundless streams, to cool those burning in infernal fires. May forests where the leaves are blades and swords become sweet groves and pleasant woodland glades. And may the trees of miracles appear, supplanting those upon the hill of Shalmali. And may the very pits of hell be sweet with fragrant pools, all perfumed with the scent of lotuses, and lovely with the cries of swan and goose, and waterfowl so pleasing to the ear. May fiery coals turn into heaps of jewels, the burning ground become an even crystal floor. May crushing hills become sublime abodes, offering temples, dwellings of the Buddhas. May the hail of weapons, lava, fiery stones become henceforth a rain of flowers, and all the mutual woundings with sharp blades be now a rain of flowers thrown in play. And those engulfed in fiery Vaitarani, their flesh destroyed, their bones bleached white as kunda flowers, may they, through all my merit strength, have godlike forms, and sport with goddesses in Mandakini's peaceful streams. What fear is it, they'll ask, that grips the henchmen of the deadly lord, the frightful vultures and the carrion crows? What noble strength is it that brings us joy and drives away our dreadful night? And looking skyward they will see the shining form of Vajrapani. Then may their sins be quenched in joy, and may they go to him. And when they see the seething lava flood of hell extinguished in a rain of blossoms, drenched in fragrant streams, at once fulfilled in bliss, they'll ask, how can this be? May then the denizens of hell behold the one who holds the lotus. Friends, throw away your fears and quickly gather here, for who is it who comes to us to banish dread, this gleaming youth with bound-up hair, this loving Bodhisattva, saving and protecting every being, whose power relieves all pain, bestowing joy? Behold the 100 gods who lay their crowns before his lotus feet, the rain of flowers that falls upon his head, his eyes moist with compassion, the splendor of his house that echoes praises of 1,000 goddesses. May those in hell thus cry on seeing Manju Ghosha, and likewise, through my roots of virtue, seeing bodhisattvas like Samantabhadra, free from stain, those clouds of bliss all laden with a cooling scented rain, may those languishing in hell now come to perfect joy. And may the stooping animals be freed from fear of being preyed upon, each other's food, and may the famished spirits have such joy as those who dwell within the northern continent, and may they be replete and satisfied by streams of milk that pour from noble Lord Avalokita's hand, and bathing in it, may they be refreshed and cooled, and may the blind receive their sight, and may the deaf begin to hear, and women near their time bring forth like Maya Devi, free from all travail. And may the naked now be clothed, and all the hungry eat their fill, and may those parched with thirst receive pure waters and delicious drink. May the poor and destitute find wealth, the haggard and the careworn joy. May those now in despair be whole in mind, endowed with sterling constancy. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May every sickness that afflicts the living be wholly and forever absent from the world. May those who go in dread have no more fear. May captives be unchained and now set free, and may the weak receive their strength. May living beings help each other in kindness. May travelers upon the road find happiness no matter where they go, and may they gain without the need of toil the goals on which they set their hearts. May those who put to sea in boat or ship attain the ports that they desire, and may they safely come to shore and sweet reunion with their kith and kin. May those who lose their way and wander in the wild find fellow travelers, and safe from threat of thieves and savage beasts, may they be tireless and their journey light. May children and the aged and all those without protection, wandering in the fearful pathless wastes, who fall asleep unconscious of their peril, have pure celestial beings as their guardians. May all be freed from states of bondage. May they be possessed of wisdom, faith, and love. With perfect sustenance and conduct, may they always have remembrance of their former lives. May everyone have unrestricted wealth, just like the treasury of space, enjoying it according to their wish, without a trace of harm or enmity. May beings destitute of splendor be magnificent and bright, and those who suffer from deformity acquire great beauty and perfection. May all the women of the world attain the strength of masculinity, and may the lowly come to excellence, the proud and haughty lose their arrogance. And thus, by all the merit I have gained, may every being, leaving none aside, abandon all their evil ways, embracing goodness now and evermore. From bodhicitta may they never separate and constantly engaged in bodhisattva actions. May they be accepted as disciples by the Buddhas, drawing back from what is demon's work. And may these beings, each and every one, enjoy an unsurpassed longevity. Living always in contentment, may the very name of death be strange to them. In all the 10 directions, and on every side, may groves of wish-fulfilling trees abound, resounding with the sweetness of the teachings spoken by the Buddhas and their bodhisattvas, and may the earth be wholesome everywhere, free from boulders, cliffs, and chasms, flat and even like a level palm, and smooth like lapis lazuli. For many circles of disciples, may multitudes of bodhisattvas live in every land, adorning them with every excellence. From birdsong and the sighing of the trees, from shafts of light and from the sky itself, may living beings, each and every one, perceive the constant sound of Dharma. And always may they come into the presence of the Buddhas and meet with bodhisattvas, offspring of the same, with clouds of offerings unbounded. May the teachers of the world be worshipped. May kindly spirits bring the rains on time, for harvests to be rich and plentiful. May princes rule according to the Dharma. May the world be blessed with all prosperity. May medicines be full of strength. May secret worlds of power be chanted with success. May spirits of the air that feed on flesh be kind, their minds imbued with pity. May beings never suffer anguish. Let them not be sick nor evilly behave. May they have no fear, nor suffer insults. Always may their minds be free from sorrow. In monasteries, temples, and the like, may reading and reciting widely flourish. May harmony prevail among the Sangha. May its purposes be all fulfilled. May ordained monks, intent upon the practice, find perfect places for retreat in solitude, abandon every vagrant thought, and meditate with trained and serviceable minds. May nuns have all their wants supplied. May quarrelling and spite be strange to them. Let all who have embraced a monastic life uphold a pure and unimpaired observance. May those who break their discipline repent, and always may they strive to cleanse away their faults, and thus may they acquire a fortunate rebirth, wherein to practice stainless discipline. May wise and learned beings be revered, and always be sustained by alms. May they be pure in mind, and may their fame spread far and wide. May beings never languish in the lower realms. May pain and hardship be unknown to them. With bodies greater than the gods, may they attain enlightenment without delay. May beings time and time again make offerings to all the Buddhas, and with the Buddha's unimagined bliss, may they enjoy undimmed and constant happiness. May all the Bodhisattvas now fulfill their high intention for the sake of wanderers. May sentient beings now obtain all that their guardians wish for them. And may the hearers and Pratyeka Buddhas gain their perfect happiness. Until, through the Manju Ghosha's perfect kindness, I attain the ground of perfect joy, may I remember all my lives and enter into the monastic state. Thus may I abide, sustained by simple, ordinary fare, and in every life obtain a dwelling place in perfect solitude. Whenever I desire to gaze on him or put to him the slightest question, may I behold with unobstructed sight my own protector, Manju Ghosha. To satisfy the needs of beings dwelling in the 10 directions to the margins of the sky, may I reflect in all my deeds the perfect exploits of Manju Shri. And now, as long as space endures, as long as there are beings to be found, may I continue likewise to remain to drive away the sorrows of the world, the pains and sorrows of all wandering beings. May they ripen wholly on myself, and may the virtuous company of bodhisattvas always bring about the happiness of beings. May the doctrine, only cure for sorrow, source of every bliss and happiness, be blessed with wealth, upheld with veneration, and throughout a vast continuance of time endure. And now to Manju Ghosha I prostrate, whose kindness is the wellspring of my good intent, and to my virtuous friends I also bow, whose inspiration gave me strength to grow. This completes the Bodhisattvacaryāvatāra, the way of the Bodhisattva, which was composed by the master Shantideva.